those latest greatest stuff. So I'll just play on the session. So my session will be leveraging landed cost module in D365 SCM, and it's a great video which is done by Ras team. So it's great, and so let's move a bit on. I'll introduce myself a bit on what I do and all the stuff. So basically, I'm Kasun Pathirana, and I'm a Dynamics 365 and Power Platform evangelist. So as you know, that I'm currently residing in New Zealand, and I work at DXC Technology as a principal consultant, business architect. And I started my journey in Microsoft Business Applications from Dynamics 6, and have experience working with the D365 finance and operations for products for 9 years, probably more than 10 years, I guess now. And I got experience in working with ERP and CRM as well, both. And I do blogging as well using D365 bits, and you can find me in D365 bits, so in my YouTube as well as the Twitter as well, and also my site as well. And doing also organizing the Sri Lanka D365 user group for Sri Lanka Power Platform UG, and also in terms of my fun facts, I do like playing cricket, running, and hiking. So that's my interest. So without further ado, so I'll just go into the agenda. So I'll explain on what is landed cost, and yeah, I'll go through on the terminologies. So we'll get ourselves introduced into the terminologies of the landed cost, and I will follow the basic inbound process flows with landed, and then landed costing in D365 SCM. What are the required setups and demos and the resources? So more of the time I'll use in the system. So I'll be doing a lot of stuff with the system. So, but I'll go through on the slides as well for you to give an overview, and also to give a overview on the setups as well, what we need. And then I'll be spending more time on the setups on the system itself. Right. So let's move into the next page. So the next page, we give you so I'll be giving you an introduction on the what is landed costing. So what's the concept of landed costing? So the landed costing is the total cost of a landed shipment, which includes the purchase prices, freight, insurance, and other costs up to the port destination. And you have it is actually the true cost of an item. So once it has arrived at a buyer's location, so that will determine what is the true cost. So in this example, if you see, you can see a laptop which is actually shipping from US to New Zealand. So the item price is actually 1,000, but individually for that item to ship to New Zealand, it needs a freight cost of $10 per one unit, and then duty probably would be $5 per one unit. So this is an example, hypothetical example, but you'll get the example of what's the total landed cost. So the item price is 1,000, but you have $15 which incurred through the journey and the through different various activities while it's been shipping from the USA. So that's the cost. So that's the cost that needs to be added in. So that's what will be the total cost as well. So that will be the total landed cost. That will be 1,015. And also landed cost is an essential for you to calculate the company's bottom line. So by representing the total cost of a product on its journey from the factory floor to your buyer's door, right? And So as I mentioned, it includes the price of goods, shipment cost, insurance fees, custom duties, or any other charges that incurred along the way. That will be included. So in the example, like given freight cost and duty, but there will be various charges which will be added up while the journey is there. And calculating landed cost is important, but it's also necessary to running. I mean, it's really necessary for running a successful business to identify what's your landed cost, because it isn't a cost for you, and that cost has to be identified as well, right? So that's why it's important and add it. Having the landed costing, so you'll be able to track that and you'll be able to add that on top of the item. But we'll go through how we can add it and what are the ways that we have from the system. So before we go into the next level, we'll identify on the terminologies, because there's various terminologies that we need to understand, because the landed cost have several terminologies that need to be familiarized ourselves. So let's start with LCL, FCL. So what does that mean? So LCL is less than container load, or it is a consolidation, right? Um, so that what happens there basically, LCL, if you see there's few if you see that you have various boxes there, so your shipment is actually represented in red color, and then if it's other shipments, other importer shipments, which will be showing in different color. So if you see the LCL, there are only few red boxes there. So that means that all the container is not filled with your goods, or all of your goods. So it's a mix, right? So there are a group of shippers, right, inside that container. So if you don't have enough volume to fulfill full container, so that what you will do is basically you'll have the less than container load scenario, or you have the FCL in the other side, that the FCL is basically the full container load, so that all your shipments are actually fulfilling or filling up that container, right? So FCL, um, so that's the FCL and LCL part of it, and then we'll go to the legs. So what's legs? So we will talk about legs in the journeys. So each of the journeys, so example, the journey that I was talking about from US to and then coming back to New Zealand, right? So each journey can have multiple legs, right? So it might be on the way that it might go to, it might be landing in South Africa or somewhere. I mean, it might have multiple legs, or you can have legs inside your as the transportation. So probably from Auckland, you might need to transfer, or probably you need to send the goods on to Hamilton or somewhere another location. So you might need to do a transportation. So there will be legs that you can add it. So local transportation as well, you can add as a leg. So that's what it is here. So it can be legs which is happening via the freight, or it can be legs which is happening via the land transportation. So all of those costs that you can, cost, as well as the legs of the journeys you can track. So that's the important part of it. So each journey can have multiple legs, and each of which represent step of the journey, basically. And leg can be part of a transportation, duty, handling, or another activity. If you have any other activities, also you can mention. So some of the loadings and some of the other activities you can mention. So once we go through, we'll show you legs, and then legs and a journey, so you'll get to understand what, in terms of the business context and the actual practical life scenarios, you can understand when we go through. So in terms of voyage is typically a single vessel that travels along a single journey. A voyage can contain multiple shipping containers, and it can also include inbound orders from different legal entities of your organization. And voyages can only be inbound. And for your information, TMS also uses the term voyage number, but this is which refers to information field where you can enter an identifier, right? However, there's no functionality which is associated with the TMS field, so that's what we need to understand here. And a journey is the physical path of a transport from origin to the destination. So each voyage must be assigned to a journey, right? And the next up is the shipping containers. A shipping container is a literal physical shipping container, as known from container ships. And one of the other ones which would be interesting to know, there are some other terminologies that will be used. So one of the other ones would be a folio. Folio is so we had three levels. So one is the voyage, and then the shipping containers, and then the folio. So usually the folio is often determined by the custom regulations. It can consist of vendors' goods for one entity or company per shipment, right? And the other one I would like to introduce on the terminology is the BAF. BAF is the bunk adjustment factor. So that is the abbreviation for the bunk adjustment factor, BAF, and it refers to the fuel that is used to operate ships, right? And as the fuel prices are quite volatile, the shipping line charges fee called BAF, or the bunk adjustment factor. So that's the BAF. So those are the terminologies. I know there's a lot of terminologies involved, but once we go through in the examples, it'll be much more clearer on these terminologies, and you'll understand more. So let's look at a basic inbound process with landed costing. So let's look at the purchase order side. So basically, you'll be creating a purchase order, and then you can create a voyage from the purchase order itself, and then you can add the PO lines. You can select the PO lines and add it to the creating the shipping containers. So you might have multiple shipping containers. So you have one voyage, but you might have multiple shipping containers. So you can do that. So you can create multiple shipping containers and add those respective PO lines for those containers that you create. And you can invoice the PO from the voyage. So if you directly invoice, that would create a GIT. So you can, there's a variation here. So you can do the GIT, or you can do the normal process of PO. So if the difference between GIT is you'll be invoicing the PO directly, but you can do via the voyage. So you can once you directly invoice it, it'll directly invoice, and then those stocks will be in your GIT warehouses, and then that ownership is actually transferred. So that's why we use it, because if you want to transfer the ownership, then you can use this method. So you can directly invoice and pay the PO vendors, and then you can take the stocks back to your goods in transit warehouse. Or some of the clients might not use that GIT. It depends on whether you want to transfer the ownership. So if you're not transferring the ownership, you can follow the same methods. You will create the voyage, but you'll do normal receiving and then invoicing at the later stage, right? So that doesn't have any GIT component or GIT transactions involved, but it'll be a normal PO process. But you'll have that voyage attached to it, and then you can process the voyage as well. And then once you do that, you'll have the actual invoices coming from the freight, and you'll settle those freight actual bills, duty, all those invoices you'll be settling in. Right. So the next one is the trans orders. So the trans orders basically will create a trans order and create a voyage record, and add TO lines or trans order lines, and create shipping containers, and trans order shipment, and then trans order received. And here you will notice that GIT is not there. So from the legacy system of ITM, this is one of the features which is not there at the moment, GIT. So you will not be able to do the GIT for the trans orders. So you'll be following this method, the normal trans order shipment and trans order receipt, but you can have that voyage attached to it, and you can include those costs as well, right? And then you'll be settling the actual invoices once it's there. So next up, how do we enable, right, this landed cost feature. So what we can do is basically you can go to the feature management and enable this landed cost. So that's how you can enable it. So if you find the module is actually under transport management, and then you can enable this feature. So that's how you can enable the landed cost. And landed cost parameters. So this is the parameters. So you can see that we can enable the landed cost features via the feature visibility. So if you activate this, that means if you go into the PO, that you'll see those features you can create directly from the PO itself, the landed cost. So you can see these. So once you enable this, you can see that, right? And the other one is landed cost parameters. So you have several setups involved here. So you can use the shipping rate. If you have a shipping rate, you can put in the shipping rate. Or if you allow zero cost, then you can make it allow zero cost. So what it means that if you have a charge, if you have a zero estimated charge, you can, do you want to allow posting, or do you want them to enter a cost, their estimated cost? So that's what it determines here. And then there are various other setups for the defaults as well, and the validation. So yeah, that's you go into detail with the system. And then we have void status. Void statuses are also critical for us. So we have several, we can create several statuses. In this, you can see created, goods in transit, arrived, cleared, it's already at warehouse. So, and then pre-costed. So you can have various of statuses, right? So these statuses will be attached to the voyage, and then once it goes along with the process or the sequence, then it will be updated these the voyage status. And each of the voyage status, you can see there's a parent, except the first one. All the other respective ones will have a parent, because the first one is the created doesn't have a parent, and then the 20 GIT would be having the parent from 10 created, right? Right. So you can see cost area as well. So you can have from the different cost areas, voyage and item level. Yeah. So you can specify on different areas on the voyage statuses as well. And the next up is the cost type codes, because the cost type codes is where you will have all those different types of cost. So example like the BAF I was talking about, bunker adjustment factor, or demurrage, air, duty, freight, fuel. Or you might be having labels which might be born internally. So what it means basically, if you look at the freight here, so the credit is actually the vendor. So if it's credit type is vendor, then you have to pay back to the vendor, right? So some of the costs you might be borne internally. So that will be in the standard example will be the label. So you can set up the credit type as a ledger account. So you can specify a ledger account, and then it will be borne by the company itself. So it will not be paid back to a vendor itself. So that's the difference. So you can determine each type of cost, and then what you do with these the cost, basically what are the posting types, and the credit, debit, credit, and also the clearing accounts, right? And the next up is the auto cost. So the auto cost is where we can use auto cost to determine. So whenever you create a voyage, you want to default the cost based on different mode of delivery, or different from port to port journeys, or if you have a different cost area, if you want to specify from voyage, or maybe you can want to specify from the container level or the folio level. So this is where you can specify your cost. So based on what you select when you create the voyage, it will automatically default those cost. And the other thing is here, you can see in the lines that you have cost type code, as well as you have apportionment method as well, right? So apportionment method, you will have percentage. So various apportionment method will be there. So I'll go back when we go into the system. I'll show you more into detail, and then you have categories as well, right? And then we have shipping ports. The shipping ports is determined. So these shipping ports you'll used in the journey. So that shipping ports, you need to determine all the shipping ports that we will have and the journeys. And the tracking control center would be used to track and update your target fields, and then update your statuses. So you can use this to update statuses, update the estimated end dates, like that. Those are the activities which tracking control center would do. And the journey templates where you can see that we use the legs, right, the load, and then the journey, and then the customs and local transportation. So you can include all of these legs. And then individual you can also see the tracking control center attached to it, so you can specify, the dates, your default day, number of days that will take for individual process. And so that is also there under the tracking control center. You'll specify those as well. And if you go to the next up is the legs. So the if you see from the previous ones, you need that legs as well, right? So this is how you set up the legs. You need the from port to port and the mode of delivery, right? And the more some of the other changes in the warehouse part of it, you'll have a goods in transit warehouse and you'll have under delivery warehouse. So this is actually required to be set up if you are using the goods in transit features. So you need to set up the GIT and UND. So why GIT? GIT is for the goods in transit process. I was telling, when you invoice, it will go into the GIT warehouses. So that's where that lies in. If you do that invoicing directly from the voyage itself to create the GIT transactions, then it'll be used in the GIT warehouse. Under delivery is where you will have under delivery from the if you have any under deliveries, it will be actually lying on the under delivery warehouse. So that's where the under delivery is, right? So you need to have these two warehouses. And if you see that the type is actually goods in transit and under, so you need to correctly select those when you're specifying these GIT and under delivery warehouses. And one of the other ones is that inventory management setup posting. You'll have landed cost goods in transit. So you have to specify these posting accounts. That's one of the setups that you need to do. And the other one is the if you're using advanced warehouse, you will need to have work classes specified, goods in transit. And next up is the mobile device. You have GIT receive. I'll show you some new feature as well, which is in the preview, GIT receive and put away as well today. And also work, goods in transit. So you need to have a work created as well, work template created as well, and then the location directive as well, right? So these are mandatory setups. If you're following the advanced warehouse path, you need to have these set up for it. So let's get ourselves into the system. So let me hope everyone can see my screen. Yeah, this is a trial account. So if you want to spin up a trial account, you can spin up a trial account for, I think, few days. You can spin up. Yeah, so let's look at the landed cost module first. So where are the landed cost? So this is the landed cost, and if you see that this is the module that will come up. So to come that, we need to enable from the feature management. So I'll just refresh these ones as well, because we will need that. So I'll go to the feature management. Yeah. So if you go to all and Okay, let me put in transport management here. So if you see, that's the landed cost. So that's the one which I have enabled. And the other feature I would discuss today is the goods in transit receiving and put away. So this would enable, this is still in preview. I think this is a 21 version 21. I'm not sure in the latest one, which is in preview or not. But this is in preview in this version, and goods in transit receiving and put away. So I have enabled the landed cost and this goods in transit receiving and put away for the demonstration for the demo. So once you enable landed cost, basically you will have this landed cost module come up, and then you would need to set up the landed cost parameters I was telling. So you need to, you can set up all these, there are various setups, so I don't think we have enough time to go through individual setups, what it does. But in the high level, I'll go through the status updates. So the status updates, so you need to have individual status updates for, these stages. So you have costed, in transit, ready for costing, pre-costed. So you have to specify all those. And then under the if you're using the cost price, so this is for the cost estimates. If you're using the number sequences, so you need to specify number sequences. These number sequences are specific for the entity, and there's a shared number sequence which is for the voyage. So this is actually shared one. And then the feature visibility, you have your show landed cost feature, so you can activate it, and you will see that landed cost feature is there then once you activate it. In the example like PO, right? And there are various setups that I was talking about. So voyage statuses. So this is where the voyage statuses. So you have, you can specify the statuses under different areas. So these are the statuses which is there, as I mentioned, right? And what else? The important ones. I will go through all the important ones. What bare minimum. So if you have shipping containers, you can set up the shipping containers, right? But not most of the companies will have their own shipping containers. So you could specify. It doesn't matter. You need to specify. You can manually type it in. So you have shipping container types. So these are the shipping container types. The types 20 FCL, 40 FCL, or less than container load. So you can specify all those shipping container types, right? So let's go to cost type codes. So the cost type codes you have. So example, like I'll take freight for an example. So it'll be debiting item and crediting vendor. And if you see the labels here, it'll be debiting item and then crediting the ledger account. So this will be internal. So it'll be debited back to internally. So the cost will be bared internally, and it doesn't need to pay back to a vendor. So example like labeling in the if you put in a label like the companies probably have their own specific label that needs to be put in, but it might need to pay that the cost or the bear that cost for putting the label, but that will not be paid back to any of the vendors. But it's just a you can specify a ledger account and post it back to the ledger account, right? Right, that's the two different scenarios. And then you have auto cost. So the auto cost is where you will specify different types of default voyage cost. So example in this is if you're coming from Melbourne, if your freight is coming from Melbourne to New Zealand, and then you have a freight here, so it's an amount fixed and $100. And then you could also use the measurements. I'll introduce some of the measurements. So this is actually the created a one called handling charges. So the handling charges is basically, sometimes you might need to pay the 3PL. They might be handling some of the handling stuff, so that you might need to pay for them based on the number of skids or number of pallets like that. So if you see here, you can specify a quantity and a cost value. So if you see here, it's a measurement and a rate, and then you can break by the quantity. And then here I've given $10. So So if in this scenario, I'm just trying to show if you have one pallet which is coming, then I might need to pay them $10. So if it says two pallets, then I need to pay $20 by the by this method, right? So this is a scenario that I want to show. So this is having different portion method. So I'll show the other ones as well. So you have quantity, percentage, amount, volume, weight, measurement, volumetric. So there are several apportionment method you can use, and then there are categories as well: fixed or percentage, pieces, percentage, rate, or volumetric, right? So based on the client need, you can specify those uh, apportionment method or the categories basically. Yeah, both of them you need to specify, and yeah, if your cost is linked to another cost type, you can link it here. So it depends on some of the duty scenarios it comes up as well. And you can have item sales group, and you have a currency as well. And in this case, you can also specify mode of delivery. So if you have this mode of delivery, like example like air, then if it's come from this port to this port, or these are the charges that we have. So likewise, you can specify, and then when you create the PO, you can specify the mode of delivery. So and the you can select that journey, respective journey will have from port and to port, and then it will determine what you will get, right? And also you have shipping containers, folio, purchase orders, item, transorder line. So there's various ways. So you can specify so either voyage, shipping container, folio. So folio is where, as I was telling earlier about that, if you have a specific scenario that you want to use the folios, you can use folios as well. So it's another level basically, and so the folio will be determined by the custom regulations basically, right? And then you have shipping container level as well, the purchase orders, or if you want to put into item, and if you want to put into a transorder, this comes with the transorders, right? So if you have a transorders, you can specify these ones as well if you're using for transorders, right? Right. So we are looking at this, and let's go into the scenario. Probably I'll go through one of the records, create a new PO, and then I'll show the process, right? I think that's what everyone is interested here. So let's go into create the vendor account, and in the vendor accounts I'll put in 2001, 24. Right. So A0001. I just added up, created a PO, add this item, and I'm going back to the header now, because header is important. As I was telling, so if you have any filtrations, if you want to do, you could put in mode of delivery. If your auto cost is based on the mode of deliveries, then you can specify. Otherwise, you can specify, but it doesn't. I mean, if you're not, auto cost is not based on the mode of delivery, it doesn't basically drive your auto cost. But that's fine. You can specify. And the other part is the delivery terms. So delivery terms is which is really critical if you're following the GIT. So if I put in FOB here, let me go to the view details. So if you're using goods in transit, you can specify goods in transit management, and that's where you can directly invoice from the weight. So we'll try that one, and I'll show you that, and we'll show the goods in transit transactions as well. Right. So we've done that. Make sure that you confirm your PO once you do that. And you would notice that we were talking about the feature visibility. So if you see that landed cost appears here, once you enable that feature visibility, and also you can see the landed cost here as well, right? So what you can do is you can create directly from PO. I know some of the clients might not create directly from the PO because they would like to go to the Voyage screen and create it. But in this scenario, I'm going to create it from here because in practical scenarios they might have multiple POs, so they would prefer to create it from the Voyage itself. Going to the Voyage screen here, or Voyages, and then they'll create from here. Or you can directly create if it's a one-to-one. You could create from here as well. create new voyage. You can specify booking reference, and if you have so usually for description wise, you can you have if you have, I'm gonna use the PO number here, so I know what's the PO reference here. But I mean, description, you can specify what's the description you want. And then the vessels, if you own a vessel, then you can specify the vessel here, right? So if not, you can specify the vessel, which is um, vessel number here. You can enter the vessel number. It doesn't need to be in the master table, master setup here. And you can manually specify that. So if you have external voyage ID, you can specify. Otherwise, you can go to the journey template. So in the journey template, I'm using Melbourne to Auckland here, and you can specify the mode of delivery. So if your cost is based on that mode of delivery, but I'm not using the mode of delivery for my auto cost setup, so I'll just show my auto cost setup as well before we go in, so that we know what to expect to, right? So we have freight 100 and then rate here for the measurements, and then it's going from Auckland to Melbourne to New Zealand, right? And there's no mode of delivery. That's what I was mentioning. So I don't need to have a mode of delivery here, so it will be for all. And if you see that shipping company as well. So if you have a specific shipping company, you can also put in there. So some if you want to be based on the shipping company, that will drive the shipping company. So that's why the shipping company is there. So if your cost is based on the shipping company, that will drive there. Okay, so you can select the bound orders, and then if you have partial quantity, sorry, excuse me. So if you have partial quantity, you can specify the partial quantity here, or you can, if you add in select everything, then it will be selecting everything, right? And the other one to note is this is one of the screens which changed from the old ITM legacy module, right? So you can see that purchase orders, if you're using only purchase orders or trans orders, you can actually filter, and you can filter for a site. So that's one of the things it's here. And and the display dimensions as well, because some of the companies might use the product dimensions. So that would be very important to use that dimension itself. So you can enable those dimensions if you want, right? And then so once you select that, so this looks like the item arrival journal if you're used to it. And so once you select it, once you select your PO lines, and then you can add this to staging, and then you can view the staging list, right? So basically it adds to a staging list, and then you will create the shipping containers, right? So you might have multiple lines, and then probably a few lines go to one of the containers, then the other containers will have the other lines. So you can create like that. So shipping container, so I'm going to have only one container here, but you can have multiple containers in one voyage. That can be done. And so you can have from the setup itself, or you can manually specify. So I'm manually specifying here, and then I'm not gonna yeah, I can specify shipping container type here, or but I'm not going to specify because there's some other cost which will drive if I use this, because the I can show you because if you see the shipping container type, that's actually driving from the shipping container type here. So I'm not going to demonstrate that part of it, so that's why I'm not selecting. But for your information, the shipping container area is actually using the shipping container type. So based on the shipping container type, you can drive the cost, right? So that's why this type is also important. And can have a shipping date. Okay, I'm just gonna put in a past date just to show today. So I go to the voyage. So I created the voyage. So this is the voyage record that's created, right? And you can see the all the details which comes populated from the purchase order. And one of the things here, so if I go to the tracking, you could see the tracking here, right? And yeah, so these are the trackings basically, right? And you can see that the tracking comes shipping container. So if you have multiple shipping containers, you can actually filter based on the multiple shipping containers here. So you'll see the multiple shipping containers, and you can see individual container status basically. So we can specify, because I say first it start first. So if I save this, this actually drives the estimated days. So that's from the tracking control center, basically the default dates. And yeah, so you can put in the actual end date. So I'll come into that. So I just specify the estimated end dates and then go back here, right? And then I'll show you the cost as well. So you can see that 100, and then you would notice that I don't have any cost for the handling charges. It's basically because I'm using measurement here. So I haven't specified the measurement. So I say measurement 1 and skid 1, and then I'm going to put in 1 here on the line level, and it says skid 1. So if you have probably 5 skids and then you want to split into multiple lines, so based on, so probably one line would have 1 skid. So likewise, say the other line will have 2, and then the other line would have 3. Then you can specify, right? All this based on that. So let's say it's just 1 skid at this moment, and one of the other ones you can see you have functions, find auto cost. You can use the find auto cost to update your cost. So if I go back to the cost inquiry, now you would see that $10, right? So I have 1 skid, so I need so the handling charges we need to pay $10, and then the freight charge is $100, right? So that's the estimated one. So that's the other thing to notice. So this is the estimated cost, right? So the actual comes once we settle in. So right now we only have the estimated cost here, right? And then you can have estimated cost types. And initially when you come in, it'll show you total, but you have a view screen and you can enable all those stuff here based on the view you want. You can enable it here, right? Yeah, so that's good. So we did that part, and let's have a look on the PO side of it, right? Let's go back to the PO, and let's go to the delivery, and you would see that the confirmed delivery date is actually 10th. It's because it's coming from this the tracking, sorry, tracking. If I go to tracking, so it's actually coming from the tracking. That's the estimated end date, so that's what it's updated there, right? Right, that's and you can see the status as well. Voyage status 10 created, and then if you go to manage, you have few status. You can update the statuses. So if I say it's document received, and you can actually go and attach once you receive the documents, but it doesn't look through whether you attach the documents. It's just an update for you to see, right? And then header also have a few of the informations. You can specify estimated ETA, shipping port, original documents received. So there are various other information. If you want to update, you can update it as well here on the header. So we looked at the cost. If we look at the tracking, so let's go through the process. So I'll just go to the manage, and then I'm gonna post the invoice here. And before that, I'll probably show you the transactions here. So it's only having 1 line, right? So go back to the post invoice, and then I'll show you what happens, right? So this is directly posting the invoice, and I'm taking the ownership of the goods. So that's why we are posting it. And then, so usually, these days it takes a lot of time for the shipments to come. So meanwhile, if you have the ownership, you can pay back to the vendor, PO vendor, right? So I'd specify invoice number, and then I can say update match status, performed, past that. And the other thing to notice is that if you're using this JIT method, you will not be able to use the three-way matching, because you're directly posting it without the delivery, the delivery, the package delivery notes, right? So there are various setups, but in this scenario, you have to use the ordered quantity, right? You don't have any product received quantity, so that's why you need to use ordered quantity in this scenario, because I haven't received anything, right? So that's to note, and then match status passed, and then you can post this, right? So you'll be posting this, then I'll be invoicing the PO directly, and then, so yeah, that's been done. So if I go back, so this is the voyage, actually, I'm in the voyage, and you would notice that some of the status might be updated. So in transit, I can also update this to be in transit as well, 20 GIT. So if it's in transit, because I've already created, so I can say it's in transit now. And before I post that invoice, you would notice that there was only one line. Right now there's so many transactions. These transactions actually came through because of the GIT process. And if you notice that previously I was showing where we enabled the GIT capabilities, right? And then these transactions are created based on that. So if you follow the GIT process, that's these transactions will create. If you're not following GIT process, that means you're not posting invoice first. You're receiving it and then come back and post it based on your product receipt. Then you will not have these transactions there, right? So this is because directly following the GIT process. That's why it has these transactions. Okay, all right. So we've done that and we received it, and sorry, we've invoiced it. We haven't received yet, so we're gonna receive it now. So I'm gonna go into the, so this is the emulator. I'm gonna log into the emulator and receive the GIT receive and put away. So let's think that it's been received. So I'm gonna go and take the voyage number here, and then put in the voyage. Yeah. Achievement content, I think SC1 I put in, and A0001, and the quantity specifies here. I think I had 10 quantities, so I'll just put in 10 here. Right. And then put away. So I've done the receiving and the put away. So it's already done that both part. Otherwise, I have to go back and complete it. It's a two-step process, so it'll create a work if you're following the GIT. GIT receive and put away separately. Then you have two steps. So it'll create a work, and then that work you have to find and complete it. But here, I've used receiving and put away on one step. So this is a preview feature in 21, version 21. Not sure whether it's, I haven't checked the latest ones, which is it available or not, but it's in preview in this version. Right, and yeah, so we've done that receiving part. So if yeah, so if you see the status now, it's invoiced, and the purchase order status is invoiced as well, right? So this status has been updated once I do that receiving part, if you noticed. And you can see that the voyage status is 20 GIT. So the other one which I haven't completed is the tracking part of it. So tracking part, I can say I can finish as well. So let's say I probably did it on the same day. So you can see the actual dates update here. And then probably it was supposed to come on 5th, but let's say maybe I received it 4th. So it actually took me 2 days, right? So it's been updated actual days here. And then say probably I received on 6th, and then probably I received on 7th, right? Okay. So likewise, I can specify all those. Okay. And so let's have a look on the status now. What has happened to the status, right? So this status has been updated based on that, right? So that individual steps that we follow, so it updates these statuses, right? Okay, cool. So we've gone through that, and so the next up is the voyage. If I come to the voyage, and sorry, if I come to the manage, and then I can say this is ready for costing, right? If you want to update the ready for costing, you can update it as well. and then the final status is the costed, right? Right. So let's look at how we realize this actual cost, because if you go to the cost inquiry, now you have the estimated cost, but you don't have the actual cost. So how do we do that actual cost? So the process is, if you you have to go to the accounts payable invoice journal, right? And then you create the new journal, the invoice, and you go to the lines here, and let's say I'm just selecting a 1003 as the account. So this will be the account that you're going to pay basically. So I had 110, so I just say 120 USD. So I could specify the invoice date, invoice number, right? So once I specify the credit amount, then it's actually enable the select voyage cost. Otherwise, it will not enable you. So you'd notice that if you haven't put in the value, it will not enable you. And then once you go to the voyage, you can select the specific voyage. In this case, I'm doing voyage 3. So I say okay. So I can actually select the allocate the cost. So I'm going to say 105 for this because it's not what I estimated. Probably the actual was much more than the estimated. So this might be 15. So I have all 120. So there's no remaining at all because I'm only using 120, paying back 120, right? So that's why the remaining. So you can see whether there's a remaining amount for you to allocate or not. So you can see that once I do that, you can have this, you get the descriptions and all those, the cost type codes actually come through here, right? This is handling charges, this is freight. Okay, let's say this also need to have approval. So if it comes from your employee, then it should be fine. And then you need to post it. So once we post this, we could see the cost inquiry and check the actual cost there. All right, so we did that. So we'll go back to the cost inquiry. Right, so you have 105 and 15, right? So that's the actual cost already. So we realized the actual cost, and we can come to the manage, and then we could say costed. So that's been done. So if you haven't done the costed, you can't update that status. So it'll be notifying you if you try to do it before realizing the actual, before posting the actual invoices there. So that's the full process. So that's a complete process that we went through, and we discussed a lot of these scenarios as well. And let me go back to this the presentation itself, because I have there's a new feature which is coming, so I just wanted to explain on that. So this is the new feature which will come with the 2022 release wave 1. So if you have landed cost integration with the third-party freight forwarders, this will be one of the great features which you will be seeing. So if you see that there will be the data entities only there for setups. Currently, I think it's enabled in the public preview in April. I haven't checked it yet, but I think this will be really great because you can use all the transactions linked through with the freight forwarder, so the data entities will be available. So this will be great for the third-party logistic providers, and you can now submit voyage container folio records or update estimated cost and all those tracking control records. A lot of stuff you can do, and this saves times and improves the accuracy by ensuring the information there already, right? So this is what's upcoming with the ladder cost, and there are some other resources here, and there's one of the videos I have. So if you want to watch on more on the ladder costs, so I have explained on this YouTube video, and then this is the integration. If you want to look through and read about this integration third-party freight forwarders, this is where the link, and this is the link to the ladder cost overview, right? And thank you, and thanks for the organizers, and thanks to Ras and everyone who has involved in this amazing finance and operations summit. And I'm up for the questions now.
Thank you for that. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? I think we have one already. I don't know if you can see the chat there, Kasun.
Yeah, if this process feature is enabled from the
Yeah.
parameter, does it require every order to follow the process of shipment, or we can? No, it doesn't need all the that you need to follow. I mean, some purchase orders you might have local ones. You might not need this landed cost at all. You won't need to follow it basically. So you can select which I mean you can select which one you want to follow. So you might have foreign orders which is shipping from US or somewhere else and to your destination. So that will require that you can use the landed cost process with GIT, or you can use without the GIT process. So that's a variation of the landed cost. Yeah. And also you can use with the trans orders as well. So if you want to consider some of the handling or maybe transfer charges, you can do that. Yeah. So do you have any more questions? Anyone?
Yeah.
i'm
Anyone have
i'm
any
i'm,
questions?
I'm there in the LinkedIn as well, so probably I'll share my LinkedIn. Yeah, there are reports as well on this module, so there are a few resources. You can a few reports actually. So if you go to the landed costs, there are a few various reports here. The inquiries, you can see the over 100 transactions and tracking as well. And if you can see that inbound tracking, so this is one of the inquiries one that's quite good. You can use it. So you can see what's pending, what's coming up, right? All those by the voyage. So you can actually specify in this case. I mean, example, if I'm looking at voyage 3, then I can see whether I have been received or not, what's pending, where it is, right? All those stuff you can see it, and yeah. So there's various reports you can use. That's one of them. That's the inquiry one, but I can't run the reports here because of the trial environment. But there are a few reports you can see: outstanding invoices, analysis by activity, voyage costing by individual cost. So there are a few reports you can explore. So these ones are there. Yep, that's out of the box ones. Let me see whether I have another question. Yeah, okay, what okay. Okay, can you have more than one? Yeah, you can have more than one PO per voyage. Yeah, that can be done. How the voyage is linked with the transportation feature. So basically, what Microsoft recommends is if you're using the inbound, for the inbound processes, you should use I mean, you can use landed cost. So that's the recommended one. But transportation management, if you're using, you should not have both for inbound. So basically you have to select which one you want to use. And transport management comes with the outbound especially. So the outbound, you have to use the transport management because outbound part doesn't handle with the landed cost, so it's only inbound. Yeah, you can have more than one per PO for voyage. Can one PO with multiple lines be split across? Yeah, you can split across multiple voyages. That you can create multiple voyages. That's fine. So one requirement I have received from my client is that they want to see landed cost accounting at the time of product received separately instead of going to accrual account. Can we achieve this? They want to see the landed cost accounting at the time of product. So I'm not sure whether you're going to follow the GIT process. So if you follow the GIT process, then you'll see the postings there in the invoice itself. You can explore on the GIT, the capability. If you're not following the GIT capability, if you do the product receipt, I don't think that you can do anything on this. So I believe you have to explore on the GIT capability. Might suit your client needs. So we can show the postings with the GIT. Yeah, but I don't know whether GIT will fit for them because it depends if you're taking the ownership, and also the other thing to notice is that the invoice is already posted, and so you won't be able to change it, right? If they don't want to follow, yeah, then it doesn't help. Yeah. in that case. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, anyone else have any more questions? Right,
So
I think that's
I'll put in my LinkedIn as well. So if you guys have any further
Yeah.
questions or anything, just yeah, feel free to touch base with me. All good.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for
Thanks, Jeff.
finishing our session, our full day today here, even though it's the start of your day. Thank you
Yeah.
everyone for attending. We may see some of you come back tomorrow. I hope to see a few of you there. But yeah, another great day, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.